It's been a long time coming, but finally we have the long-awaited and deserving return of everyone's favourite Jedi, not Jedi, Ahsoka Tano.
Back into the Order. You may come.
Headlining her own series following her storied history throughout the Clone Wars, Rebels, Tales of the Jedi, The Mandalorian, and The Book of Boba Fett. And among the air of excitement surrounding this returning star came a wave of anxiety given Ahsoka would be sharing the screen with the beloved and treasured cast of Rebels, who many wanted more of despite their stories receiving cathartic payoffs in the end of the show's 4th season.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
And the fear was that there wouldn't be enough room for such an array of larger-than-life personalities battling for attention once again, plus the inclusion of several new antagonists with intriguing backstories and possibly Star Wars' last saving grace in the villains category, returning to us after 5 years away that demands an effective homecoming meant that the fear was high. But let's pray that the fear is expelled as we go with this one, because if it doesn't go right, that fear will become anger, steadily ascending to hate, and that hate will leave us all suffering.
You will not take it from me!
If one of the biggest linchpins to Star Wars at this point is undercooked in their own series and starved of agency in place of everyone and everything else, thrown in as well with a series that also seems to want to unpack some shit that was never alluded to in Rebels or Mando and is saddled with the highest of expectations to answer two of the biggest questions coming out of Rebels' finale, and that was what became of Ezra and how was Thrawn back? But honestly, this is a Dave Filoni production, a man who was under the tutelage of George Lucas and had a hand in crafting both Ahsoka and the Spectres in this universe. So you can bet your ass that he'll find a way to allow all of them to coexist on screen as they did before in Rebels, with room for all to flex and show how the passage of time has affected them and hopefully enhance the nuances surrounding the various characters involved in a manner that tops off all of their journeys rather than oversaturating them with unnecessary contrivances and convoluted backstories for the times we never saw. There's much riding on this one and I'm excited to see how it all unfolds, but right now let's take things as slowly as this episode did and run through the first episode's plot, and then I'll give you my 2 cents at the end.
Oh shit, here we go again.
This episode picks up with the possible antagonists for the show, Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, tracking down Morgan Elsbeth following her capture at the hands of Ahsoka in Season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Who?
And after they pick her up, we shift over to our troublesome Togrutan, who's investigating an ancient location belonging to the Night Sisters, where she retrieves a star map that could help her locate Grand Admiral Thrawn and by association Ezra Bridger, who both of which disappeared thanks to the Purrgil in the Battle of Lothal at the end of Star Wars Rebels.
Alrighty then.
However, due to reasons, Ahsoka and Huyang are unable to open the star map, so General Hera Syndulla suggests calling on Sabine Wren for assistance, due to her puzzle-solving abilities, but tensions are high in that area due to Ahsoka apparently leaving Sabine during her training, deeming her difficult as an apprentice for a time following the Battle of Endor.
Ugh, you're the worst.
And during this meet-up, Hera informs Ahsoka of Skoll and Hati's attack on the New Republic fleet, which seems unconnected at first, until Huyang confirms that both their lightsabers follow traditional construction techniques, meaning that with Skoll's age, he survived Order 66 and could pose a threat.
Prove it, ding dong!
However, they can't worry about that just yet, as the mission requires the map, so Ahsoka approaches Sabine, who is hiding out on Lothal in Ezra's old hideout and seems done with life and duty. But despite her reservations about Ahsoka, Sabine agrees to unlock the map to track down Ezra, but Ahsoka's concerns right now is to stop the possible resurgence of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Sabine runs off at the star map, however, to do things her own way, whilst Baylan sends Hati to track her down and retrieve the map and take her out.
This ass is mine!
Sabine manages to unlock the map, but as she readies to let Ahsoka know, she's attacked by Shin and her droids and the map is taken. With Sabine engaging Shin in a duel using Ezra's lightsaber, which ends with her being stabbed as Ahsoka makes her way over and they lose the fight for now.
Why won't you die?
No, you are entitled to your own thoughts, but for me, it's undeniable that this series has made an effective debut with good action, incredible visuals, and a thrust into the present that wastes no time presenting the threat, the mission, and the conflicts involved.
Good job.
But one thing I will hammer home to you here is you cannot go into this as a casual viewer really, as there is already and likely to be many more nods, references and Easter eggs that call back on previous encounters, moments and characters from both the Clone Wars and Rebels, which could play into the narrative a little more later on. And that makes perfect sense to me given that the show is comprised of characters solely from the animated material. So if you really are wanting to get invested in this, I would recommend that you do your homework.
God fucking damn it!
But if you are already bitching about this not making sense or having no idea who these characters are, that is on you, my friend.
You're on your own. See you, buddy.
As I can understand, shows like this would usually offer a moment to reintroduce legacy names for newer viewers, like they tried to do with Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, but this series isn't for the casual viewers, this is for the animated fans, and thank fuck for that. I loved being thrown into the thick of it, and even if one of the aspects to this didn't make much sense to me right now, it was nice to see the buckle fasten and off we went. You can absolutely tell that this show has Filoni's fingerprints all over it, with the compositions, musical scores, set dressing, outfit design, saturation and tonality all being reminiscent of the animated shows, and at points almost had me brought to tears with the motifs, movements, designs and camera positions all drawing me back to various moments throughout the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Are you crying? Am I crying? No, I'm not crying. You're crying.
To see our girl back as the headline act was incredible, and she looks better than ever before in live action, with Rosario Dawson taking herself back a bit in the delivery of the character, providing a more stoic, composed and measured presence here, and she's clearly more mature than when last we saw her, and she's been through some shit lest we forget. The duels and her combat proficiency were honestly the clearest it's ever been in live action here, going against the HK droids, as it felt less rigid, more profound and unquestionable, and more aligned with the woman we know that can kick ass and is quick on her feet, having been taught by the Chosen One, and it was a nice introduction to what to expect for the rest of the series. And despite her more stoic demeanour here, she was still written with the light-hearted banter we know her to have in Clone Wars, given her back and forth with Huyang and Hera, and this still feels consistent with her character. But the biggest question for me here is what happened between her and Sabine. There's a lot of context here that we're missing, and I hope that the show will answer this sooner rather than later, but this is one of the concerns that I mentioned about earlier that made little sense to me.
It's okay, buddy. Just a few more minutes and we're good until spring, okay?
But it doesn't make any sense.
As Sabine was never presented as a Force sensitive throughout Rebels, but there were possible hints to her being so here. And I can't tell how I feel about that just yet, but if it is simply the case that Ahsoka is just training her to be more proficient with a lightsaber, following her time with Kanan during the events of Rebels, where he taught her to wield the Darksaber and later Ezra's blade, then I can work with that, but the idea of another Force sensitive being randomly presented feels rather sporadic for Filoni, and I hope there will be an explanation soon enough. As for our moody Mando, she was certainly less of the peppy personality we knew her to be before, and instead had the sarcasm cranked up to 11.
And now, the award for best sarcasm goes to this guy.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
With a somber tone behind her that seems detached from everything that she loves, and for a moment she seemed to let her feelings get in the way of working with Ahsoka, but came through in the end as she normally does, whilst almost appearing a little arrogant here, almost trying to one-up Ahsoka, who had found the star map but couldn't open it, and instead of working with her, decided to compromise herself and the information on the map in favour of being rebellious.
What are you, fucking stupid?
Which aligns with her character from the earlier seasons of Rebels, I guess, but the later seasons showed that she was starting to mature beyond that attitude and started to play better with others. So this did feel like a bit of a step back for her character, but you could argue that this is just her responding to Ahsoka following whatever transpired between them. I wouldn't say that Natasha delivered a stellar performance as Sabine, but it was a respectable performance nonetheless, and I hope that she starts to grow on me as the season progresses.
Be better.
However, what I will say is the combat scene between her and Shin was fucking sweet. It delivered a neatly choreographed action piece with the lighting, expressions and movements intercut with Ahsoka rushing to her former apprentice's aid, all adding a real sense of dread and desperation to the moment. Even though you understand nothing can really happen to Sabine just yet. And with that, I think it's about time to mention how effective Skull and Hati were presented in this as well, as these wanderers that are clearly searching for a new purpose that they feel could be found with Thrawn, hence why they're assisting Elsbeth here, is fascinating, and they aren't even presented as dark side users, which shrouds them even further in mystery, but out of the gate, they set the tone of the show, making the first moves and making it clear that Filoni isn't pulling any of the punches in the writing with this one, showing the attacks and just how formidable the pair can actually be. Then lastly for me is Huyang, returning for the first time since Clone Wars, and possibly the biggest surprise you could throw into this one for me, as the weapons master for the Jedi now has the chance to get some development himself, with hopefully some worthy moments of butt-kicking action following his time in Clone Wars, and with plenty of wisdom and expertise to offer, he could be an invaluable asset to the show. And now knowing who our lead cast are, or for now at least, and what they bring to the table in terms of conflict, agency, desires and allegiances, I feel pretty optimistic for the future of the show, as it's offered everything I'd hope to see from a live-action Filoni series, but sadly I am still cautious given how I was burned with Kenobi, but this is a promising start.
Pain. That's it.
It isn't ashamed to display its roots and connections to the animated material, with the dynamic, energetic charge that sparked a new generation of fans then has returned now, full of vibrancy, imagination, and fleshed out characters that helps to set this apart from the other live action installments that chose to have an array of tones that clashed with each other rather than picking a fitting one. Ahsoka and Sabine's tension is clearly the crux of this one, with the duo needing to overcome their grievances for the sake of Ezra and a possible chance of stopping Thrawn rising once again. The narrative does share its time with Skull and Hati, who seemingly have a fascinating backstory, with Skull in particular being a survivor of Order 66, and based on trailer footage has a history with Anakin which could only serve to heighten the drama, and it needs to be mentioned that Ray Stevenson performed this role brilliantly here. And right now, Hera and Elsbeth are just plate spinners and plot devices, pushing things forward, with Hera being a connection to the New Republic and possible forces needed for the upcoming battle, whilst Elsbeth was revealed to be a Night Sister here, and with that link possesses a deeper connection to the mysticism of the Force and the magics around the galaxy that could be weaponized effectively by Thrawn going forward. This show will no doubt have criticism for its use of characters, being nostalgia bait in some cases, like Anakin being confirmed to return at some point in this, but there will be moments that land organically, like the use of Ryder Azadi and Jai Kell returning here as well as names that were close to the Spectres, and especially Ezra Bridger.
I understood that reference.
With the little character touches and nuances throughout this first episode, it makes it clear what the show wants to be and understands what the audience wants from it. So we are on the right path, and I just hope that we can stick to it. I do trust Filoni, but his experience in live action has been limited to effective Clone Wars riddled episodes with lengthier runtimes, not the standard 20-minute features of animated antics, so I'm both concerned and interested to see how his vision translates into an 8-episode season. And with that, the mystery is underway as to how this series will perform in comparison to Disney's other exhaustive and degrading attempts to reintroduce legacy characters into their own spin-offs like Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett.
Quick, shoot me in the face!
And all we can do is trust the process, kick back and watch as the girls take centre stage in a last-ditch effort to stop the galaxy from facing another form of tyranny, whilst uncovering possible connections and details to another galaxy in search of their missing friend. And for now, that's all I've got for this one. Keep an eye out for my review for episode 2, and if you're new here, subscribe to keep up to date with all my videos, as I'll be covering the Ahsoka series weekly from start to finish. And if you like what you saw here as well, hit the thumbs up to spread this video around, and until next time everyone, take care, and may the Force be with you.